Fans of the Sandman comics were definitely impressed by its TV adaptation, so let's learn how this amazing graphic novel was brought to life. Find out why Tom Sturridge felt so embarrassed when meeting his co-stars. Discover how Lucifer's outfits enhanced Gwendoline Christie's devilishly good performance. Also, learn how many of the fantastic sets were actually real, and which prop the lead actor took home.
Did you?
Yes.
What did you say?
I don't know if I should say.
Let's go! The hardest episode to adapt. The Sandman has been notoriously difficult to translate to the screen. First off, owing to the grand scope of the 3,000-page-long graphic novel. What's more, it doesn't quite fit into any of the existing narrative templates that make up contemporary television. No wonder it took over 30 years until Netflix finally gave it a go. As comic creator Neill Geychan confessed, the very first issue of the novel was the hardest to adapt. It required the most work, as its story covers 100 years. On top of that, the main character is trapped in a glass globe for most of his time on screen. And the lead actor totally agrees with Geychan. Tom Sturridge found shooting the pilot of the Sandman not only hard, but also quite awkward. The actor said it was incredibly frightening to introduce his character, Dream. He's an otherworldly creature who doesn't speak and doesn't move, sitting naked in his glass prison. It was like having that dream where you turn up to work or school and realize you forgot to get dressed. But for Tom, it was for real. For me as an actor, it is what it is, he explained. It was embarrassing. It was my first month on set. No one knew me. You're like, hey, this is me. The glass sphere wasn't easy to open and close again. So in between takes, Tom had to stay inside without so much as a blanket.
I genuinely would sit in it for hours at a time, which was very COVID safe, but slightly dispiriting.
No matter how uncomfortable he felt, Sturridge understands the importance of nudity for his character. It's a powerful depiction of how Dream was stripped of everything during his imprisonment. Given Tom's dedication to his role, Neill Geychan never regretted this particular casting choice, although there were literally hundreds of other candidates. The battle to be the Sandman. The rich source material made the perfect starting point for bringing the iconic characters to the screen. In addition, the show's co-creator, Allan Heinberg, revealed that he prefers to write with actors in mind. So it was a huge help for Allan to hear the actual cast's voices before creating the final version of the script. That's why their performances felt so organic. But the auditioning process was quite stressful for some. Although many actors would be happy with literally any role in the show, the creative team took their time in choosing the cast. Tom Sturridge recalls that it took an extraordinarily long time from his first audition to the moment he joined the show. The start of the casting process was pretty ordinary, though. Tom was one of the first 10 actors introduced to Neill Geychan and the other showrunners. They were immediately impressed by Sturridge's classical background. It matched the character of Morpheus perfectly, including how he should sound.
Tom is a classical actor, which means that he knows how to deliver blank verse. He can go for the emotional heart while hitting the words and hitting very specific rhythms of speech.
However, that didn't stop Geychan and the production team from considering 1,500 other actors for the lead role. In the end, they were convinced that Sturridge was the perfect fit. Hilariously, Tom described his final audition as a Sandman Oxford interview. He was on a Zoom call with 12 different people, all asking questions that he'd never encountered as an actor. It was a quite deep, philosophical interrogation into my position on the character and the story and the ambition for the series. Merely hours after that, Tom finally got the part. Surprisingly, the actor confessed that before his first audition, he had never come across the Sandman stories. Of course, he was aware of its cultural impact, but he hadn't read the comics at all. But things have changed since then.
I'm one of the biggest fans in the universe of Sandman.
I'm someone who is an obsessive Sandman fan.
And it's easy to believe him. Just listen to Tom explaining why a standalone Sandman movie would have been a bad idea.
Sandman is about, it's a story about stories, quite literally. And the idea of trying to pull one story out of it and tell that in 2 hours is the antithesis to what it is.
The Sandman is packed with other larger-than-life characters. But before we get to the one who stood especially tall in its brilliance, check this out. Support OSSA by sending a super thanks. Just click on the thanks button under the video and choose an amount to donate. Stay awesome, and remember, we value each one of you. The ultimate fallen angel. Some fans expected Tom Ellis to reprise his role as Lucifer, thanks to his fabulous take on the Dark Lord in the titular show. However, Neill Geychan felt that version of the character was too far from his comic version. So Gwendoline Christie got the part to become arguably the most regal-looking Lucifer in TV history, and she couldn't be more excited.
Most badass, best, and absolute coolest version of Lucifer on Netflix.
The showrunners said Christie's casting was a no-brainer. Neill Geychan took inspiration from many of his favorite musical artists when designing characters in The Sandman. Dream was based in part on Peter Murphy from Bauhaus, while Desire was based on Annie Lennox, and Delirium on Tori Amos. In turn, the ruler of hell looked like David Bowie in the early stages of his career. It's hard not to be impressed by the way Lucifer looks. Despite brief appearances, her dark majesty rocked several outfits. Her all-white debut look reminds of Japanese funeral robes. An eye-grabbing, vivid red gown demonstrates how casual the ominous Satan can be. And this gothic leather suit makes Lucifer Morningstar look like a real rock star. If you enjoyed the fashion choices in Hell, you'll be glad to learn who is responsible for them in the human realm. It's Gwendoline Christie's real-life partner, Giles Deacon. He's a renowned British fashion designer who worked for Gucci and Bottega Veneta before launching his own brand. Now Giles can also boast of being the devil's personal designer. Changing Lucifer's and Lucienne's gender was a step away from the original comics. At the same time, the show's creators replicated the Sandman novels very accurately, and it's down to the finest detail. Behind-the-scenes magicians. The Sandman series was made by the people who loved the original comics, and for the people who loved it. Neill Geychan himself was surprised and deeply impressed by the scope of the sets. It's like walking around inside your own dream, he gushed when he saw all the decorations for the first time. The Sandman's creator explained that the production team always strived to be as practical as possible, and whenever they could avoid having an actor interact with a tennis ball on a stick, they would. They even brought real ravens onto the set, although none of them could actually speak, unfortunately. Apparently, Tom Sturridge had so many scenes with actual birds that he's an expert now.
I was like,
He's such a good Raven impression.
The cast all had their fair share of wondering how often they'd have to encounter a green screen. So imagine their surprise when they saw most of the sets were built for real.
first time I went into Lucienne's library, I was like, oh my God, this is incredible.
Everything was tangible. All those gorgeous books were real, heavy, clad in leather, and handwritten. Combined with CGI, it truly brought the magic of the Sandman to life. Property master Gordon Fitzgerald revealed that Dream's Ruby was his favorite among all the props the team created. The majority of the artifacts that the actors interact with had a physical component, and the visual effects crew altered them in post-production. The Ruby, however, had its own special effects. In order to create illumination, Fitzgerald team worked with the electricians who made it glow in different ways.
Breathe. But it was so much is real.
Understandably, the cast members thought about taking some of the props home.
Everything. I just wanted everything. Yeah, I want all my prop.
But Tom Sturridge was the only one who actually stole something from the set.
Did you?
Yes. I don't know if I should say.
My pouch inside.
Oh, did you?
The loyal librarian also didn't go away with nothing. The prosthetics team presented her with something very special.
Oh, I was given the ears, and they're in a glass box at home.
However, there were certain sets where stealing was off limits. The most traumatic episode. As a former Doctor Who companion, Jenna Coleman is no stranger to saving the world from otherworldly threats on a daily basis. But in the role of occult detective Johanna Constantine, she experienced a whole different kind of learning. In one memorable scene, Coleman performed an intense exorcism in Latin, and it was filmed in a real church in Greenwich, UK. It was fun. Never done an exorcism before, shared Jenna.
Clearly worked.
It clearly worked. It sounded authentic with me.
The demon's not there anymore.
The actress really liked Johanna's sleek and sharp look, but she fancied one detail the most, a crucifix in her boot. Coleman confessed that she tried to get it into every shot. There's another brilliant actor who used a prop as the starting point for his character creation. The rogue nightmare, known as the Corinthian, is inseparable from his dark glasses. Actor Boyd Holbrook revealed that he enjoyed not removing them and being an enigma. In fact, he found them so useful for setting the tone that Boyd didn't even take the sunglasses off between takes. In terms of acting, it was liberating that nobody could read his intentions through his eyes. It almost felt like a protective mask that allowed Holbrook to embody the intimidating Corinthian. Surprisingly, it wasn't the walking nightmare that brought the most disturbing events to the screen. We bet the majority of viewers would agree that they couldn't sleep well after the episode titled 24/7. No wonder, since it's based on one of the most terrifying comics in DC history. But for showrunner Allan Heinberg, this iconic episode wasn't so terrifying due to the fate of its characters. Instead, it was nightmarish because he had to find a way to remain true to the original story while adapting it to reflect John Dee's point of view. The team built an entire diner set which could easily pass off as a real eatery. Thanks to this, the episode was rehearsed like a play, which is not exactly a common practice on TV. That added great depth to the cast's performance, because while the events in the diner are monstrous, the story of each character is heartbreaking and very human. We are waiting impatiently for more stories from the Sandman, as the source material is so expansive. On that note, Neill Geychan revealed that they shot footage in Season 1 that may be used if the show gets to Season 5. Let's keep our fingers crossed. If you liked this video, visit our awesome merch shop. We have branded t-shirts, hoodies, eco bags, and even phone cases. You can choose between dozens of unique and awesome designs. Click the link under the video and find your perfect match. And check out our other videos about comics turned TV shows. Stay awesome!